Congratulations, you have made it to Module 2. I hope things have been going well for you guys so far in class. It's been really nice to get to know you a little bit better and to start our learning together. I wanted to do a short introductory video to Module 2. It won't really take the place of the commentary and directions, but I wanted to, first of all, give you a chance to practice your speaking and listening skills. Because we do a lot with writing and written words in this class, especially because it's online. So the videos are a chance to get to practice some of our other language arts skills, like we've been talking about, particularly in this case, listening, and that's something you'll cover in this module. So I wanted to show you some books and talk a little bit about some of the things that you'll read about in the Tompkins book and in the article that's assigned for Module 2. So you'll see that for this module, we're going to be reading chapters on emergent literacy and on oral language listening and talking. You also have an article talking about kids' response to books. And the reason that I put those two chapters together is because it's only really recently that we've started to see very young children as in the process of becoming readers and writers, in the process of becoming literate and able to use the multiple language arts. It used to be thought that sort of nothing happened and then kids went to school and learned to read, right? And it was sort of an immediate jump. And research has helped us show that actually kids have this wide developmental trajectory, and kids go through that at different times. And if any of you have children, and I know some of you do, you'll probably have seen some of this in your own kids or grandkids. So that we really, it's nice now that research has helped us see the ways that even really young children start to be introduced to the world of literacy, and the ways they do some initial attempts at being literate people. And so one of the things I want you to take away from this module is how important those early attempts are and how serious that work is for young children, and hopefully encourage you as teachers to do everything you can to support young children's early literacy abilities and early language arts attempts, even if you are teaching the early grades. But the other reason that I put these two things together is because until kids learn to read and write more fluently and more developmentally, right, until they get better at it, they really, we and they both depend on the building block of spoken language, right? Unless a child has a very severe disability, all human beings learn to speak the language of the people around them, or learn to sign the language of the people around them. If they're deaf or if they're in a community that signs. I know ASL, American Sign Language, so everything that's true for spoken language is also true for sign languages, just a little note. But so we really have oral language then as a building block for literacy, right? And so we can use, both as teachers and as readers and writers, we can use our knowledge of spoken language that is sort of inherently part of our humanness, right? Just we learn it. People don't have to be taught to talk. They learn to talk by being talked to and being expected to talk back. So we can use those as building blocks when we're trying to do this other skill of written language, which is in fact not necessarily a human phenomenon, right? There are many cultures across time and even today that don't use written language, and certainly don't use written language in the same ways that other cultures and communities do, right? The ways that written language gets used really varies, whereas spoken language is much more consistent and sort of our human characteristic. So that's one reason that I'm putting the spoken language and oral language component with the emergent literacy piece, because I think that especially for very young children, those are the tools that we have to help them scaffold into the other language arts, right? They are learning oral language, and we can use their oral language to help encourage future work in written language. So I hope that makes sense. You'll read about some of those different kinds of techniques in your book. You'll read about the ways that kids start to learn about things like the alphabet, about words, right? We're not born knowing that language is made up of words. We just hear a constant stream, and we make meaning from that. So in some ways, learning to use written language is about breaking that down. right? So it's not just one stream, but we have sentences, and then we have words, and those words have letters, and really getting smaller and smaller about those components of language. And one way, you'll notice this is a theme, one way that we can really help kids think about language in new ways is through books. There's many different kinds of books that you can use to encourage students both emergent literacy and their oral language in general. I'm just going to show you a few examples. Your book has some more. You might be familiar with alphabet books, right? So books that go through A to Z and just encourage the order of the alphabet, encourage the sounds of the alphabet. There's a whole wide variety of these books, even for older kids too, have sort of taken up on it. And it's an option for some of your reading synthesis assignments is to make an alphabet book about the things that you've been learning. So you'll probably be familiar with that. Of course, there's also books like some of our favorites. This was my dad's favorite book to read to me when I was little. And of course, everyone loves Green Eggs and Ham. But Dr. Seuss and P.D. Eastman and these kinds of books do a great job of using wordplay and of using rhyme so that kids start to hear those sounds consistently. And so as teachers or as people interacting with kids, we can say, isn't that funny? Ham and Sam and am, that's all have the same sound. That's really interesting that that sound repeats. Right? So we can draw kids' attention to the ways that he's playing, that the books are playing with sound. There's also texts that are sort of predictable and also encourage repetition of sound. So this book is called These Hands. These hands can touch, these hands can feel, these hands create, these hands can build. So you start to see the consistent sentence structure. It's over here. This reminds me of the kind of book that if you've seen the learner.org video of Miss Owens in her classroom, it sounds like a book she might read about the pumpkins. These hands can hug, can pat, can tug. Right, so you start to play with sounds and the repetition of certain words. If you don't know this book, I love this book for sound and wordplay. Cool Dog, School Dog. So it says, Tinka is a fun dog, a sun dog, a run and run and run dog. A joy dog, a boy's dog, I choose a brand new toy dog. And so the book goes on like that, but it has this very specific rhythm and rhyme structure to it, which can, again, help kids start to think about the language they're hearing. Maybe for a slightly older child, but again, still a book that plays with sounds and might encourage fun with spoken language and oral language, is this book, More Spaghetti, I Say. If you don't know it, you should look at it, but it's really fun. Play with me, Minnie, play with me, please. We can stand on our heads, we can hang by our knees. Oh no, I can't play with you, Freddie. Not now, can't you see? I am eating spaghetti. So you can already hear how some of the sounds and rhyme and wordplay is happening. In addition to alphabet books and wordplay, the structure of books can sometimes really help. So sometimes folk tales are important, so cumulative tales like the Little Red Hen. And the Little Red Hen story, this is a different take on it about Passover, the holiday of Passover. But another Little Red Hen takeoff is described in the Tompkins book. It's one of the scenarios that the chapter starts with. So you might notice that. Books like Tough Boris, which have parallel structures. So if you see this, says once upon a time there was this pirate. He was tough. All pirates are tough. He was massive. All pirates are massive. Right, so you're getting the structure. He was scruffy. And I bet you could predict what the next line will be. All pirates are scruffy, right? So it's a way to get kids engaged to hear that parallel structure of the language. You might know books like this, 5 Little Ducks or 5 Little Monkeys Jumping on the Bed. These are what's known as cumulative stories. So they build, right? And the structure is the same, which is one reason kids love them. And sometimes parents want to gouge out their eyes because they're like, don't sing another verse of that song. But books like this can help kids with, again, wordplay, the rhythm of language and the structure of language. Another classic, We're Going on a Bear Hunt. Very similar. Another cumulative tale, one of our favorites, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, right? So the ways that things and actions in the story build and build, right? On Monday this happened and he was still hungry. On Tuesday this happened and he was still hungry. On Wednesday this happened and he was still hungry, right? So kids can start to be able to predict the language, and that starts to help them connect the oral language with what's written on the page. Same things with, if you don't know Todd Parr, he's a wonderful author, and this is the family book, and the structure is set up like this. Some families are big, some families are small, some families are the same color, some families are different colors, right? So he starts to talk about diversity, and then at every few pages he has all families blank. So sort of a commonality. So the diversity of families, and then a commonality. Again, another sort of good parallel structure book. Some books really encourage discussion, and that's another great way to help support particularly young students, but all students, oral language development, to talk about books. If you think about a book like this, Where's Spot? Right? There's actually questions posed to the reader. Is he under the stairs? And so kids say, no, right? And it, again, encourages that sort of back and forth interaction. Same thing with a book like No, David, right? You can say things like, no, David, no. Uh-oh, what did David do? Oh, no, what happened? And then suddenly you're having a discussion, right? Really supporting language. A book that's mentioned in your text, Yo, Yes. Another book sort of like No, David. Very minimal text, but you can tell a lot of stories. David Wiesner is wonderful, especially for texts that have very few words in it. This one is about frogs that fly. It's great. You should definitely check it out. Again, for slightly older kids, still needing to support their oral language, a book like David Wiesner's Flotsam. It's fantastic. Starts off with a child on the beach. The child's investigating. Goes in the ocean, and he finds a camera that's washed up. And the rest of the book is about the adventures of what's going on in that camera and on film. And it's a fantastic opportunity for students to tell their own stories, for students to study art. So we're getting a little bit into that visually representing and viewing skills of language arts, but still supporting oral language. Another book that is another wordless text is Jerry Pinkney's The Lion and the Mouse. Gorgeous illustrations. And it covers this folktale about the friendship between the mouse and the lion. Again, an excellent opportunity for students to tell their own stories, to practice sequencing, to practice noticing details in artwork. Maybe a good prompt for them to write their own stories if you're working with slightly older children. But again, books that have an opportunity to support oral language. One of my favorite categories of book is the kind of text that Larry Sipe will talk about in the article that you're going to read about talking back and taking over. And he has a section that he talks about writerly texts, because he says that sometimes textual characteristics might support students' engagement and response in certain kinds of ways. I love books that almost demand response from readers, right? And do so in a fun way that encourages discussion and talk. If you know this book, do not open this book, right? It also reminds me of the Grover book, The Monster, at the end of this book. I loved that when I was little. Same sort of theory. So here's this little, I guess he's a pig. And he says, "Excuse me, but who do you think you are opening this book when the cover clearly says, 'Do not open this book'? A sign on the door reads, 'Do not enter.' Do you enter? Of course you don't. The least you would do is knock first," right? And this book is particularly fun because it's about this pig and his construction of this actual book that we're reading. So you can see over here, he has a whole different kinds of words and words stacked up, and he's going to be writing this book as we go. Right? So again, a fun way to think about language and a fun way to respond because the book is talking right to the reader. Which brings me to the read aloud I want to do. I said I'd try to do one each module. It is my all-time favorite children's book, and it is one of these books that encourages response and encourages the kind of active, engaged, and dramatic response that Larry Sipes' article will tell you all about. It is called Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. It's by Mo Willems. He has a whole series of books about the pigeon, and they are just fantastic. I have never read this with children where they didn't respond, right? They know that they're being talked to, and they use their early reading skills and their language skills to respond in the ways that the author is setting them up to do. So I want you to get a sense of that, how that might feel and how that might sound. Again, always thinking for this module about early literacy and oral language, and the ways that oral language really is a building block to getting into books. Okay, so I'll try. I know that the camera's a little awkward. Here's the pigeon, and he is dreaming about driving this bus. Hi, I'm the bus driver. Listen, I've got to leave for a little while, so can you watch things for me until I get back? Thanks. Oh, and remember, so there's the bus driver. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus. And there goes the bus driver walking away. And there's the pigeon. I thought he'd never leave. Oh, there's the pigeon. Hey, can I drive the bus? Are you going to let him? Please. I'll be careful. You going to let the pigeon drive the bus? He says he'll be careful. I tell you what, I'll just steer. My cousin Herb drives a bus almost every day. True story. You gonna let him drive? Uh-oh. He's getting a little angry. Look at that. Vroom, 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 vroom. Pigeon at the wheel! He's so excited. He really wants to drive. No? You're still not gonna let him drive? Never get to do anything. Look how sad the pigeon is. He's so sad. Hey, I've got an idea. Let's play drive the bus. I'll go first. You gonna let him? There he goes. He's gonna go drive the bus. Come on, just once around the block. I'll be your best friend. How about I give you $5? No fair. I bet your mom would let me. What's the big deal? It's just a bus. I have dreams, you know. Fine. Let me drive the bus! That poor pigeon is so angry. Look at his feathers flying. Oh my goodness. That's an angry pigeon. But you're not letting him. I'm back. You didn't let the pigeon drive the bus, did you? Did you let him? Great. Thanks a lot. Uh-oh. There goes the pigeon. Bye. Oh, look at the pigeon. Hey. What do you think he's thinking there? Maybe he has a plan. And now he's dreaming about driving the truck. So you see how that book is set up so that kids respond, so that you can start discussion, right? You don't really have to say, so would you let the pigeon drive the bus? Because the book is doing that for you. It's a really, really fun way to interact with kids of all ages. when I read it in my undergrad face-to-face classes, even then sometimes students will answer. It's just fun. We want to be connected. We want to be engaged. And these kinds of books that are really good for emergent readers often encourage that kind of response. And in so doing also help you support language development, both oral language and then as a scaffold into eventual more fluency with written language. So I hope that brings to life a few of the ideas that you'll read about in this module. Don't forget to check the commentary and do the readings and all the associated assignments that you can find in your syllabus and in the commentary. Hope you guys have a great module. Bye.